All right, so I'm just gonna get started. People can continue to roll in, but I'm just gonna get a few logistics out of the way, introduce myself, and then I'll hand it off to our lovely panelists for the night. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our second open house AHANA event for our little open house series that we're doing. Just a reminder that this is actually part of our virtual open house experience, and you can find all of the future sessions and past sessions on the Discover Boston College page. Along that line, the session will be recorded, so if you asked a question, got an answer, but forgot about it, you can just log on to the Discover BC page, which is the same page that you used to register for this event, and you can find the recording right there. I'd also just want to touch really quickly on the pandemic. I hope that all of you are in great health right now, and are in a place where you're able to navigate the college application process. I know it was tough when I was a senior, and I'm assuming that it is especially tough right now. If there's anything that we can do at the student admissions program or the admissions office at BC to help you guys, feel free to reach out, and we'll always be willing to lend a hand. So welcome. My name is Aiden Henderson. I'm a current senior at Boston College. I'm from Newton, Massachusetts. I'm studying environmental studies within the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. I'm actually here today moderating this panel, so I'm not actually a panelist, but I'll give my 2 cents if there's any questions that I feel like I can answer. But I am the AHANA Plus Outreach Coordinator, so reaching out and connecting with prospective students like you guys. But yeah, so enough about me, enough with the logistical introductions. Oh, sorry, one last thing. So in a second, I'm gonna turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. In terms of question asking, this panel is gonna be what you guys want to make of it. So the chat itself is disabled, but if you look at the bottom of the Zoom, you can see that there's a Q&A box, and this is where we're gonna be answering all of your questions. So you can feel free to throw your questions in now while the panelists are introducing themselves, and we'll work through them as the night goes on. But this night is really what you guys want to make of it. We want to cater our responses to what you want to know. So feel free to start tossing in questions into the box while our panelists introduce themselves. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to our first panelist, Latifa, to introduce herself.
Hi, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Latifa. I'm currently a junior in the School of Arts and Sciences. I'm a double major in sociology and African diaspora studies. I am from Providence, Rhode Island. I would say one notable academic experience that kind of sums up my BC experience here is I went and did a summer abroad to Paris, my summer of my freshman year, and that was a great experience where I was able to explore Blackness within France. So, hi.
And I think we are waiting for Irva next to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Irva Hamid. I am a junior as well. I study political science and international studies at Boston College. I am from Connecticut, but I was born in Pakistan, but my family lives in Connecticut, so which is not that far from BC. I think the most notable experience that I have had at Boston College is my role within the UGBC. I ran for elections, like you can get elected to the student government. Student government has mostly been the highlight of my extracurricular experience at Boston College. And some of the work that I do within Boston College has led me, I received the John Aquino Award, which is Social Activism Award for Asian American rights on campus. So I think that's my most notable moment at Boston College.
Should I introduce myself now? Hi, everyone. My name is Belle Liang, and I am a professor in counseling, developmental, and educational psychology in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I have been a faculty person at BC for 20 years now. Can't believe it. It's gone by super quickly. One of the things that I actually love the most about my job is I have really enjoyed working with undergraduates in a practicum course. It's called the Applied Psychology Practicum course, and it's about really identifying what your purpose is in life and how to apply it to your academic and your career journey. So I hope that I'll get a chance to meet some of you and work with you in that capacity.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. So now's the time where we're going to turn to questions. While we're waiting for you all to put your questions into the Q&A chat box, I have a few pre-prepared that we're going to work through, but always feel free to just type a question in the box. You can type as many as you want. You can type 10, you can type 1, whatever. Again, the night is yours. But I guess I'm going to start off with asking our panelists to talk about a cultural organization on campus that has really been instrumental in your experience. And how that has kind of affected your life on campus as an AHANA student, as a student, other than that. Also, before I just turn this question over, I know we're going to be saying AHANA a lot. We have a ton of acronyms on BC campus, but AHANA is sort of the umbrella term that we use here at BC that stands for African, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American students. And we often toss a plus on at the end to really encompass intersectionality of experiences and people that may not fit very smoothly under that umbrella, but still identify as students of color. But so glad we cleared that up early on. But if you have any more questions, feel free to toss them in the box. I'll answer that. But yeah, so if our panelists can speak about a cultural organization that has been a big part of their student experience.
Yeah, I can go. So my freshman year, I joined Patu, which is called Presenting Africa to You, and it's an African dance team at Boston College. Dance organizations are a big thing at BC where it gets very competitive, but it's also very fun. But I'm Nigerian, so I'm really in touch with my Nigerian culture and its food and its dancing. And joining Patu, it gave me the ability to bring a sense of home onto BC campus, and it gave me the ability to form relationships with upperclassmen who are on the dance team and with other freshmen. And that was basically my first home at BC, which led me to other people, other organizations, and other communities throughout my years here at BC. So I feel like Patu and just joining that organization laid the foundation for me to feel comfortable in who I was as a Nigerian, as a Black African Muslim woman, and confident in who I was as well.
I have worked with ALC, which is the AHANA Leadership Council. Freshman year, I was on the committee for organizing the Keith Francis weekend. But right now I work as a policy coordinator. So as my role in the AHANA Leadership Committee, I get to talk to a lot of clubs like Patu, there are also some religious clubs at Boston College, the MSA, Muslim Student Association, and some other clubs in that capacity. Like I try to work, that's how I get to know a lot of people and a lot of cultural organization at Boston College, because ALC kind of provides me with these connections that I can talk to a lot of people, figure out what we need to do more at campus, what more initiatives we need to bring, what policies we can bring forward. So that's how I would describe my relationship to cultural organization at Boston College.
Cool. Yeah, and this next question is gonna be more specifically for Professor Liang, but I was wondering if you could just talk about kind of how your journey to Boston College and what led you to get here, and once you were here, what kind of led you to stay here, especially as a faculty member who's been here for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I came to Boston College about 20 years ago, as I mentioned, and before that I had worked at another college that I loved, an all-women's college, and it had such a sense of mission, and I thought at first that that would be my forever home, and it was really just kind of a fluky thing that I ended up applying to Boston when we realized that we were going to be staying in the Boston area and, as a family. And I didn't really know whether or not I would be able to find another academic home as I had at the other college. And, I have to say it's just amazing to be able to think back to that now, because I feel so incredibly fortunate to have found BC and really be working with people who are so like-minded and even though there might be different views on many different things, but we really share this this core of an emphasis on service and social justice, and these are things that are very, very important to my colleagues in my department and in my school. And so it's just been an amazing thing to be able to work at a university where you're not just supported to serve and do research that you are, interested in and committed to, but to do it along like-minded people who are equally passionate about really addressing the big problems in the world today. So I would say like that has been, a very much formed the foundation of my connection to BC. And I just also have to say, like, the students are, really the amazing part of this privilege. It's really special to be able to work with such bright and curious students from all different backgrounds, and really be able to partner with them in research labs, in the classroom, and in and out of the classroom.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question from Robert, just asking about cultural organizations available for the Latinx community and also the percentages. So we have a couple of admissions counselors in the chat that are going to give you they can give you numbers specifically about demographics, but I can just give you a quick idea of some of the Latinx organizations that are available on campus, but there's a ton. So the first one that comes to my mind is there's OLA, which is the Organization of Latin American Affairs, but it's also just, there's a ton of just more niche groups. So you have like DABC, which is the Dominican Association of Boston College. You have the Cuban American Association. You have Brazilian Association. You have Mexican Student Association. You have Cape Verdean Student Association. It's really across the board for the Latinx community. And it's more of where you find your home. So you don't have to identify as being from Mexico to be part of the MSA, which is the Mexican Student Association. And it's really just kind of free flowing and wherever you find your home in terms of student organizations on campus, which is great. And then in terms of your question about percentages, an admission counselor will hop in there and give you a specific breakdown of the numbers at BC. So I hope that answered your question. So we have another question from an anonymous attendee asking, what is something that you wish you knew about Boston College before you came?
I guess I can take that question. Before I came to Boston College, I would say I was not much well aware of Boston College. I applied to the school, but I wasn't fully aware of how the school functions. And I'm a Muslim woman, so one of the concerns my parents had of how I will be able to practice my faith in a Catholic university. So before coming to BC, I guess I was also concerned about that. Not as much as my parents, but still. I think before coming to BC, I would have liked to know that there was enough support, there were enough organizations, there were enough clubs on campus that would not only allow is a very soft word, that would allow me to fulfill and prosper in my faith. I think when you get to BC, you'll see there's a lot of philosophy and theology classes, but they're not based in this one religion. They're inter-religious, intercultural, and they give you this overall understanding of being a person, or being a person for others, which is, I think, something that's common in all faiths. So I think that's something I would have liked to know before I came to BC, that it's not something that it would holds me back, but it's something that would allow me to explore my own faith on my own terms, but just give me the tool to prosper in that respect. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'd say something that I wish I knew before going into BC. I don't think this is necessarily going to be really honing in on BC, because I feel like BC is also, when you look at other colleges and institutions and universities, they all also have similar themes, similar mission statements, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say personally, I went to a high school where I was very much involved, over involved, and I had a form of activism, which was, more direct action, more taking the lead, doing speeches, this, and that. I feel like I really ran my school, but coming into BC, I tried to replicate that same thing. And I wish I knew that there were different forms of activisms, and that there's different ways in which I, as a student, and I, as a person, I, as Latifa, can evolve. You're not going to just stay stagnant in who you are as a person. You evolve, you get into new things, and you learn different things about yourself. So I guess I wish I knew that beforehand, so then I probably would be more gentle or more understanding of myself my freshman year. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for those answers. That's great. So I know, at least I know Irva touched upon being a Muslim student, and we have a question about the Jesuit nature of BC and how it has impacted you, especially as students who are not Catholic. So I don't know if you guys want to touch a little more in detail on that that topic.
I can expand on it a little bit from what I said earlier. Again, BC has a lot of churches on campus, and it has a lot of it has a whole theology department, which is something that BC is well known for. So you have access to the Jesuit resources if that's something you would like to explore. You have plenty of access, you have plenty of mentorship, you have access to all sorts of services. But if you're someone who likes to, who has affiliation with another religion and wants to explore that, I took theology classes at Boston College. I also took philosophy classes at Boston College. As a Muslim who's very, I think I'm well ingrained in my faith and I would like to learn more about my faith. I think BC takes, again, a wholesome approach to the faith factor. It's not as much, it's whatever you want it to apply to in that context. If you're learning about being a man and women for others, that's a similar principle in Islam, which it asks you to be think of something bigger than yourself. That's the principle that you explore that is being taught in the academic curriculum or even in the theology department. I think then you cater that to yourself and how you want to apply it to yourself and how you want to learn from it. I think that's how the religious aspect or the Jesuit aspect applies to other faiths. That's how at least I took my theology and philosophy class, and how I took my faith experience in Boston College. I personalized it to myself.
And also, just to add on, I think that is a great question. I'll say one thing that I do value about the Jesuit education is their focus on reflection. Because I oftentimes will talk to my other friends who go to other institutions where they've told me that they don't know what it means to reflect and how to do that. And I was very shocked by that, because I feel like BC already implements that within their courses, or professors do that in a way where reflection becomes a hobby, in a sense, where you're just always introspective. And due to that piece of reflection, that's allowed me to still hone in on my identities as a Black African Muslim woman and go day by day with holding it, my identities on my sleeves. And this is not to say that it's been an easy task. It's not been easy. I'm still learning how to juggle my intersectionalities and create space for people who look like me. But I will say that having that piece of reflection has allowed me to maneuver through these spaces at BC.
And Professor Leong, would you like to touch upon quickly about how maybe Jesuit values influence the way that you've approached your classes as a professor on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love what everybody's been sharing here about the emphasis on reflection and the importance of that. I think that is something that the whole world is realizing right now is needed. Like, we are, have had so many things that have been stopped or canceled, and we have these extra spaces, in our day and in our lives. And I think that many people across the world are thinking hard about, what really matters in life. Like, what are my core values? What, even what is higher education for? These are questions that existed long before, COVID happened, and they've only been exacerbated by COVID. And, I'm just really, so glad that, our students and faculty and staff really prioritize this, the reflection on really deep, important questions about life, so that we can be very intentional in the paths that we choose. So, in answer to your question, Aiden, one of the things that, we do in my course in the Applied Psychology Practicum is, really think through who we are and what we bring to our career paths and our academic journeys. And rather than just make choices that are based on, sort of the society's definitions of success, which tend to be focused on wealth and power and privilege. A lot of times, in higher ed, students, just are guided by a lot of societal definitions of success. But in my course, we really think hard about what are the intrinsic values that you carry into life, because if you are choosing courses and a major and ultimately a career path that is aligned with what you genuinely care about intrinsically, not just because somebody said that this is a value, but you genuinely care about it, it's aligned with who you are, then that leads to not only positive outcomes for you and for your success, but for the world and for all the people that you will contribute to one day. So I think that, the Jesuit values of formative education and formative relationships, which I can talk about more later, are a key part of that reflection.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd also just like to quickly add that although BC is a Jesuit Catholic university, it does put funding towards allowing other students of different faiths, be it Judaism, which I am personally Jewish, or Muslim students to practice their faiths safely. And so we have a multi-faith chapel, and we also have campus ministry that funds the multi-faith chapel, and that is a space on campus where students of all faiths can practice. And different organizations are formed, so like the Muslim Student Association would practice in the multi-faith chapel. I know yesterday was Yom Kippur, and so the BC Hillel group would hold a service there, and that's just a great space for students to kind of exercise their own religiosity and grow religiously while being on a Jesuit Catholic campus, but not being Catholic or Jesuit Catholic as well. And so the next question we have is from Andrea from New York. It's kind of a two-part question, so I'll ask the first part, and then at the end I'll touch upon the second part. But what has been your favorite part about the AHANA experience? And then I guess the second part, which you can touch upon, is what are 3 words that you would use to describe the AHANA community?
The question was, what's your favorite experience about, what's your favorite AHANA experience?
Favorite part about the AHANA experience? Like, what's the best part about being AHANA on campus, I think?
I'll definitely say the people. I know coming in, I at first when I applied to Boston College, like I'll admit, I thought BU and BC were the same. Like I thought, okay, BC, BU, let me just apply to both, like whatever, right? And it finally came down to my top 2 choices between BC and Brandeis. So I went to AHANA weekend for BC, and literally like the upperclassmen, the AHANA upperclassmen at BC were just so welcoming. It wasn't like that type of hierarchy that you see, in high school, or maybe other institutions have this, but at BC, it was very much, we were all on the same playing field. They seen me as an equal. They seen me as a friend, as a human, as a student first. So I'd say that what I'm trying to hint at is the connection and this family aspect here in the AHANA community at BC. The support system that we have. If BSF is throwing something down, it's like, okay, we're all gonna go support BSF. If Patu is having a performance, it's like, okay, we're gonna go and support Patu. So I would say that connection, that mentorship within the AHANA community has definitely been my favorite experience, where I definitely have felt at home here.
I would echo just what Latifa said. I think the people that that compose this community at campus, I think that's probably the greatest highlight of my experience as well. All the people I get to connect with via the clubs I'm in, and via like my social group and my friends and the people I live with, I think that's probably what describes my highlight of my AHANA experience. I think I'm able to like connect to them on a personal level, on a professional level, very like intimately, and I think that's like something that really boosts me up, like confirms me, reassures me of like if I'm having like a personal struggle or like academic or professional. I think it really offers me that support system that I could need away from home. So I think that's what would be my best like thing about AHANA community at campus as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then to answer like the 3-word parts, I think I'd probably say there's community, resilient, and motivated. Community in the fact that being a campus where you only have 36% of faculty, students and staff, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces. And so when you walk into an AHANA space on campus, which we'd be more than happy to talk about where they are and what they are, you feel supported, and there's a sense of camaraderie there where you already have a connection. Resilient in that they're always bouncing back and supporting each other, and motivated in that everybody's there to further each other's academic studies or entrepreneurial success or just success as a whole, and it's really great to see. One thing that I'll add before moving on to our next question is that while this is an AHANA specific panel, we're also general students at Boston College as well, so we'd be more than happy to answer questions like, oh, what is sporting events like? Like, what do you do for fun? What's your favorite place to study on campus? We can answer all of those questions as well. But moving on to our next question, as an AHANA student, do you feel supported by BC staff? And I guess I can give the flip side to Professor Leong. What are you doing as a staff or as a faculty member, to support your students, and how do you kind of see that coming to fruition?
Well, I can go. So I'd say finding mentors is definitely the first thing that an incoming freshman should try to find. I know that's something that I definitely knew was important because my mentors during high school helped me even get into college. So I knew it was important for my academic and professional career. So I had said earlier that Paris Noir, that was the name of the course. I went abroad to Paris with one of my mentors, Dr. Regine John Charles. And so I say this, entering different spaces or entering different organizations where there are faculty or professors present is a good way to form relationships. And I definitely formed a relationship with Dr. John Charles, who I now see as a mentor and who I see as a person who is able to provide me with support. There are also offices on campus. So the BAIC is also called the Thea Bowman AHANA Intercultural Center, where it's basically a place for AHANA students to attain resources, but it also is, it's geared to AHANA students, but also students outside of that demographic they're also able to get resources. But basically there, each AHANA student is given an advisor. So through that office, I've also have been able to be supported as well.
I agree with Latifa that, and regardless of what college you go to, I think having a mentor that you can connect with and you feel like, you feel comfortable sharing whatever it is that on your mind, and you feel that they would support you is crucial to any experience. So I would say that's really important. So the question specifically was, can you just repeat the question for me, Aiden?
Yeah, so the question was, as an AHANA student, do you feel supported by BC staff and other students?
Yeah. So I think, Boston College has given me a lot of tools to prosper, to go up in the shape of mentors, in the shape of empowering me in academically, intellectually, allowing me to grow. But I mean, that being said, I work a lot of my work, extracurricular work, centers a lot around policy reform, especially serving the AHANA Plus community. So I'm not saying that there is things that cannot be improved at Boston College. There's definitely a lot of things that I think that I can do something to make that better. I can do something to bring that reform. I can do something to make it better for the incoming students or even for myself. I think that's definitely an aspect. And I came to BC knowing that I am not going to be one of the majority students at campus. I knew that before I stepped in, but I also knew that I was going to be one of the minority students, but I had that in my mind. I was motivated and enthusiastic about changing that. So not changing the majority aspect of it, like as a minority coming in, I knew that I was going to have to do some whatever I feel like that needed to be changed on campus or something that needed to be addressed. I wanted to do that. So I think that's something at Boston College, when you consider that, like you will be, you are a minority on campus, but that's something you can use to your advantage, and you can help that, like you can empower yourself with it and like do stuff with it, you know?
Yeah, I'm just really enjoying listening to your responses, because I think that that is one of the most important things in my mind that you can do to be successful as a college student is to take risks and reach out to faculty. And, you know, that's one of the things that I would say is the most important thing to do when you come onto a college campus is to do things that you normally, you know, might have felt anxious doing, and to take some chances and take some risks. And one of the biggest chances and risks that you can take is to reach out to your professors and meet with them, you know, out of class time. And, you know, and you'll find, I'm confident that you will find a place that really, you know, welcomes student faculty relationships that become partnerships, that become friends. I mean, that's one of the best parts of my work really is, you know, so many of my students that I've worked with from the time they were, you know, freshman or sophomore have continued on in their education, and they, you know, come back for their master's degree or their doctoral degrees, and now are my colleagues and my friends. And so I think that there's a real spirit of, you know, collaboration and partnership with students here. I don't know if it's because of the size or because of the emphasis on Jesuit values that really, you know, have to do with forming relationships that matter, that are significant, that, you know, are about coming alongside students and not just focused on, you know, sort of academic material and helping students, you know, learn the academic content, which is important. But the mentoring relationship I really see as being so much more than that. It's a holistic relationship. It's like, you know, any kind of relationship that is, you know, that is about chemistry and about long-standing connection. And so I think that that is something that I would, you know, really encourage you all to think about as you step on your campuses, you know, in the fall, no matter where you are.
And also, just to quickly add to that note, closed mouths do not get fed. You will not get fed. That is at BC or any other institution you're going to go to. So, you know, the question of like, do you feel supported? You have to reach out in order for you to really get that support, for them to really know who you are. If you're doing something and you know, want their support, they have to first be aware that you need that support, or that you need them to come and cheer you on if you're doing X, Y, and Z. So definitely, you know, like how everybody said, definitely take risks, definitely introduce yourself when you do get onto campus, reach out to professors and to offices, because closed mouths will not get fed.
Yeah, and something that I just want to tag on is that at BC, especially as a student, I have very rarely received like a hard no to me inquiring to an opportunity or trying to get a mentorship or like an internship or a job or just do some research. And it's just like the BC faculty and staff are very willing to work with students. And if they're not this person who they feel may be best suited to work with you, they'll put you in touch with like 5 of their colleagues or somebody down the hall. And so it's never going to be a no. It's going to be, unfortunately, I don't think I'm in a place to help you, but here's 3 people you can reach out to. And it's a great way to build networks. And it's a great way that that I've seen the nature of being supported kind of manifested on campus. In terms of our next question, Ashanti is the vice president of the Black and Hispanic Club in his high school. And he's wondering, at an organization with people of color, is there ever anybody who will voice negative feedback or opinions, and how does that get handled? And I guess,
repeat the question. Sorry,
yeah,
can you repeat the question for me?
So within the AHANA community, with a club that has people of color, are there any people like within the AHANA community that voice negative feedback or opinions, and how are they handled?
So like the question is, would the AHANA community be willing to bring up criticism of something that we see that? Is that the question?
I think it's like within the organization. How is
Would the organization, would AHANA students be willing to bring up criticism about something? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can give an anecdote about that while you guys
Okay.
think about it. So basically, I'm actually currently one of the co-presidents of the Black Student Forum on campus, which I'm guessing is a similar organization to that you're vice president of. So every year, Black Student Forum hosts an annual Black Family Weekend, which is a weekend of celebration of Black excellence, and we have concerts, we have speakers come, we have performers, and the big kind of showboat event is the gala, or the Black Excellence Gala. And we had a particular featured speaker come, and it led to a conversation about issues with what Black Student Forum was doing. And you had some Black Student Forum alumni who were there in the building voicing concerns about issues that they thought Black Student Forum, the current executive board, wasn't handling correctly. And we had a couple faculty voice some similar concerns. And it may have, I think the bottom line within the AHANA community, as I said, is they always want to see each other grow. And so I think very rarely opinions and criticisms are going to be voiced to bring somebody down, and more so voiced to help an organization or a person grow. So a lot of the criticisms that I have received, while they have seemed harsh in the moment, have helped me grow and become a better person that I am now. And that kind of combines with the reflectiveness that VC is very big on, where you get a criticism and it's not going to be left at that. It's going to be something that's going to be talked about. They're going to discuss it with you, and it's going to be moved towards change. So with that specific scenario, Black Student Forum as an organization has kind of grown and evolved out of that, learned from what frustrations and mistakes were being voiced and adapted to it, and no bridges were burned, and the organization ended up stronger. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything about that, but that was kind of my take on the question.
That sounds good.
So moving on to the next question. Anonymous attendee is wondering, what is the professor-student relationship like? I would love to hear both the professor and the student perspective. So I think more along the lines of class size, office hours, email, stuff like that.
And this goes a little bit, along the lines of the previous question, right? About mentoring and what relationships are like with faculty mentors. I will just reiterate that, it's my perspective, and I think it's shared by a lot of my colleagues, that, relationships with students are more than an opportunity to, pass along information, that whether it's in the class or out of the class, it's not just about teaching students academic information, that we really see, our students as, learning partners. I learn a ton from my students all the time. And, they're precious relationships. I just treasure those relationships. And I guess one anecdote for me is that, I was given the opportunity to teach remotely or in person this semester. And I've decided, I've been teaching them in person, teaching my students in person outside on the lawn, where, so much is happening in terms of the building of community, even with like masks on and, social distance 6 feet apart. There's just such a sense of energy and gratitude for one another, that we get to be together, that we get to learn from one another. And it's just been a picture to me of what has mattered so much in my relationships with students over the last 20 years that I've been here, a sense of genuine engagement and curiosity and desire to be in community with faculty and their peers. So it's those relationships are the key part of university life for us at BC.
Yeah, I guess just to add, I would say that professor to student relationships are really what you make it to be. But also just to step back out of that too, it really depends on the type of class. If it's a lecture hall, it may be harder to form a relationship with a professor, but that doesn't mean that won't stop you from forming a relationship. You just probably have to, attend office hours more routinely in order to form a relationship with that professor. If classes are more discussion based, so my major is sociology and Africana studies, in essence, where there are a lot of my courses are about 15 to 20 students, so more intimate and more discussion based, where we're able to have that, one-on-one time with the students and the professors in the course, where I'm able to form a deeper connection with my professor. So it really depends on the courses and how you would want your relationship to be, because you don't have to be, buddy with all of your professors. I would say, make genuine and authentic relationships with professors you actually have a connection with.
Awesome, and we have a few more questions rolling into the Q&A, so we're just going to move along. What is a piece of advice that you would give to your freshman self? So I guess this is more for our student panelists.
I guess I can take that one. Freshman year, honestly speaking, I did not interact much. I didn't do much. Like right now, I'm a very different person than I was if you met me freshman year. I think freshman year, I basically, not that I think I have a little bit of an extroverted personality more than an introvert personality. But even then, I kept a lot of my time, I stayed inside my dorm. I like studied, I would go to the library and I would go to these clubs that I was a part of as a meeting. But I think I still would have liked to be out more, interact more, be more proactive, reaching out to either professors or other students or having a conversation or just generally hanging around campus. I would just take classes, do whatever needs to be done on campus and come back to my dorm, and just that was my day. I think starting sophomore year, I started to get to know a few more people. I started have conversations with them. I started feeling more comfortable with professors, like having conversation with them outside of class. But I think I just wasted all of that. I still could have done all of that in freshman year. I think it took me time to ease in. But if right now I would just give my freshman year the advice is do all of that freshman year. You don't have to wait until you're a sophomore. But the process takes time. It takes time to get comfortable with something. But now I think it's just like a lot of wasted opportunities that I could have taken advantage of in freshman year, which I didn't until sophomore year because of it just took me time to ease in. But I would advise, like, wherever you go, I would advise to like just be proactive in whatever you seek, in whatever academic field and whatever ambitions or passions you have. I would say don't think that you're a freshman, you won't be able to get into clubs or something competitive, or some professors won't consider because you're a freshman, they won't want you to be a part of the research team or whatever it is. I think you should be proactive and reach out to them even if you're a freshman. Don't let that hold you back from getting engaged into anything.
And I'd say on the flip side of the question, we have a professor here, and I'm sure she's seen her fair share of freshmen walking through her doors. So if she wanted to chip in and talk about some advice that she would give first year students as well, that would probably be greatly appreciated.
The class that I'm teaching right now is actually, interestingly, all seniors and a couple of juniors, and one of them is an RA in an all freshman dorm, and I was asking her today what's going on with the freshmen, how are they feeling, how are they doing, because we always recognize that in freshman year there's the unique challenge of finding your people no matter where you go, and that this year it's especially challenging because everywhere, because there's the social distancing and there's fewer people that you're interacting with and so on, and so I asked her how was it going with the freshmen, and she said she was loving working with the freshmen, and the freshmen were doing great. And one of the reasons is that she said this year really presents an opportunity for very authentic relationships. You're not just going out with hordes of people, you're really being selective, almost what Latifa said about being genuine in your relationships with faculty. You're not necessarily going to be close friends with every single faculty person that you are have been taught by. But if you recognize that there's a connection there or some chemistry there, pursue an opportunity for mentorship. And in the same way, she was seeing that happening among the freshmen, that they were, being selective about who they were spending time with, and they were really leaning into those relationships in meaningful ways. So I love that so much, and I really see that as an opportunity. Really, I see so much opportunity, so much, opportunity for for change and transformation that comes with disruption, which is what we're all in. We're in this, incredibly disruptive experience, and no one enjoys disruption. It's, challenging, it's heartbreaking. There's many, negatives that can be said about it, but we also see throughout history that it's been, it's disruptions that are opportunities for innovation and doing new things. And so I would say to my freshmen, you guys have so much opportunity right now. What are you doing with your time, with your, all the things that, you have been taken off the plate so that you can have this creative space to think freshly around what you want to do with this privilege of being at a four-year university like BC. So I would say that I'm seeing that happening among some of the freshmen, and other students of mine are seeing that as well. And, we're really, really encouraged and really proud.
Yeah, for sure. So we have time for a few more questions. We're gonna get wrapped up.
Gianna, great job doing roll
Under
call.
10 minutes.
Did you do the meeting?
What's going on? All right, sorry. So going to a predominantly all Caucasian, all girls school, certain issues have definitely caused different views within one another to feel, other students feel at war with each other, or other students who are not POC open-minded to learning. I can kind of tag on to this question really quickly, and then I'll pass it off to a few panelists so we can just move around. But I think at BC, although students may be at odds with each other, be it different views across the board, everybody's always open-minded to learning. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people choose to attend a university like BC, because everybody there wants to talk to you, no matter where you're coming from or no matter what you're bringing to the table. And there's organizations that are meant to educate people to be allies to people of color. So we have an organization on campus called FACES, which is an anti-racist organization that is dedicated to facilitating conversations amongst students of color and non-students of color to kind of learn about the AHANA experience and to work out any difficulties or tensions that may be present. And then again, as we were talking about within the AHANA community, if issues arise, they're going to be dealt with and they're going to be discussed more in a civil manner. So there's never really a feeling of war at one another. It's more, maybe there's a disagreement, maybe there's some tension, maybe there's some dissonance, and how are we going to work through that and move forward? I know I mentioned FACES. There's also organizations like the Bowman Advocates, which works through the BAIC, which is the Intercultural Center that Latifa mentioned earlier, that goes into non-AHANA spaces and teaches them how to kind of be sensitive to biases, stereotypes, and move forward from that. And so there's a ton of resources on campus for students who are not AHANA to learn. And there's also organizations on campus that are kind of meant to provide those spaces. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything. No? Okay. So I guess we have to, hopefully we have time to answer this question, maybe one more. But Jules just wants to know, what is your favorite memory from Boston College? And I think everybody can answer this.
I would say my favorite memory that comes to mind. So February of 2020, right, this year, ASO, the African Student Organization, put on a fashion show, and I was in the fashion show. But it was just so beautiful, so amazing. They had made it bigger this year, and they had brought in an artist, Afro B. He does the song Joanna that everybody was dancing to. But it was just so beautiful. It just felt like home as a Nigerian. Like, I just felt like home. You could feel the community. The place was packed. It was just beautiful seeing everybody dress up. So yeah, that has to be my favorite memory so far.
My favorite memories, like, okay, so I live with like 8 roommates. Like, I have like 8-man suite to myself. And not to myself, like I have an 8-man suite. I live in an 8-man suite. And earlier, like in the beginning of this year, we started doing, it's like a little mean, but not mean. We started doing a best and worst roommate wall. It's the funniest thing in the world. It's like you get to be on the best roommate wall for not like, it's not like there's not a high bar to cross to be on either side. But I think it's like one of my most memorable memories because it kind of like So I got to be on the best roommate wall because I didn't go home on the weekend. I get homesick pretty quickly and I just like try to run off to home. So because I didn't go home the weekend, they're like, okay, so that's why you deserve to be on the good side of the roommate wall. But I think it kind of translates to like the connections I've been able to build, or the friendships that I've had, or like, the relationship that kind of builds me up, supports me, understands me. And I think that's one of the things that's like very profound about my experience at BC, that I was able to make this connection with these students, and my roommates are now my best friends. And I think that's like really defining, like one of the best memories of my experience at Boston College.
Love that. I think, there's a lot, because I've been here a long time, there's a lot of memories that are flooding my mind just as I'm trying to choose one, but I'll just choose like the most recent one. When we were, when we went into quarantine, when students left the campus, and this was happening all over the country, among those people that were sent home into quarantine were, my own two kids. I have one who is a junior at BC, and so she moved home, and then I also have one who is, was a freshman in high school at the time, now a sophomore, and he decided that, since he was going to be in quarantine and was feeling his own, sense of disconnection and loneliness, that he would start this mentoring program called Mentor On, it was about connecting all of his high school friends who he felt were like, at the level of being able to mentor younger kids with groups of middle school and high school kids in these mentor sessions. And at the time I was teaching this course of mostly juniors and seniors, and they jumped in and became the mentors for the high school students. And it was like all of the parts of my life that I most love coming together. My students who are so like dear to me were mentoring my own son and his friends, and they were mentoring middle school and high school, middle school and elementary school kids from, all over the country. And some of the kids that were actually in the mentoring program were actually from other, other countries. Many of them were from highly disadvantaged circumstances. And it was just a beautiful sight. And to me, it spoke to, just the generosity of BC students and their willingness to be innovative and jump in and really put their money where their mouth is. They've been, they've been in a university that is all about social justice and service. And now more than ever, the world needs them. So we hope too that you will be able to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And before wrapping up, I thought I'd share my favorite moment at BC. This goes back to my sophomore year. I was living in Vanderslice, which I believe is where Irva is right now. And there was a football game. And basically, college game day comes to football games that are more notable than other football games. So at the time, BC is a D1 sports school, and our football team is D1. It's not the best, but it has its moments. And so at the time, we were ranked 24th in the country, and we had a game day game, which is actually at night, versus Clemson, who is the #1 team in the country. ESPN was there. Every college game day set up, and they did like the little ESPN booth in the academic quad. And I painted my face maroon and gold, like Braveheart style, down the middle. I was ready to go. And we were getting destroyed. Like, I'm pretty sure we were losing 30-0. And they did a little punt, and BC returned it for a touchdown. And at that moment, the whole campus just went crazy. Like, we were jumping up and down on the bleachers. I thought they were going to break. It was just at that moment, we were all on top of the world, no matter if the game was now 30-6, but it felt amazing. And I was sitting in, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an environmental studies major, and I was actually in a seismology earthquake class, and they have the professor, who's an amazing man, Alan Kafka, has a couple seismographs set up across campus. He has one in the library, and he has one in Devlin Hall, which is where the admissions office is located, and also the Office of Environmental Studies. And he said at the moment that BC scored that touchdown, it registered as a minor earthquake on campus, which I always thought was great and amazing. But yeah, So I'd like you to all join me in virtually thanking our panelists. I know you can't really type in the chat at all, but I'm going to share a screen with everybody's contact information if you want to reach out to any of us while I give my few closing remarks. And so, first of all, as I mentioned earlier today, if you came on late, this is part of a greater open house series. So these are going on Monday through Friday for the next few weeks. It started last week and it's going to go for the next few weeks. And basically, if you want to find the recorded version of this panel, or if you want to register for a new one, you can do so at bc.edu/admissions. And then also, one last thing before I let you all go is these, or most of the virtual panels right now are going to be with students, but we have a special session on October 13th at 8 p.m., which is going to be with admissions counselors who are going to be there to field questions about the actual application process. So anything from like, oh, how do I apply? I'm kind of lost about this, to like, what are you looking in an application? And you can hear from people who are going to be reading your applications about what they're looking for in a student, which I think would be great and a really great way to kind of get a little bit of uncertainty off your chest before you hit submit on the application. But there's our contact information. Feel free to shoot any of us an email if you want to talk, if you want us to talk further or something you didn't really want to ask in the chat. We'd all be more than happy to talk with you. But thank you all for coming today. I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesdays.